This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Good afternoon, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for May 4, 2023. And in the news this afternoon, man charged for breaking into Manchester home stealing tools. A St. Anne man has been charged with housebreaking and larceny after he allegedly broke into a house in Moorlands Estate in Mandeville, Manchester, and stole several tools on Thursday, April 27. Charged is 23-year-old Raheem Fulton, otherwise called the Chinaman, a mason of Lumsden District in Limehall, St. Anne. Reports are that about 6 p.m., the owner securely locked his premises and left. Upon his return, he discovered that someone had used a stone to break a window, entered his house, and stole several tools. The matter was reported to the police and an investigation was launched. Fulton was later held and a number of tools stolen from the complainant's house were reportedly recovered from him. The items were identified by the owner and Fulton was subsequently charged. 2 police officers charged with a rape of teen in St. James. 2 members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force has been charged with the 2013 rape of a 16-year-old girl in St. James. Sergeant Bruce Walker and Constable Rohan Mullins, who were both assigned to the St. James Division, were charged on Tuesday following a ruling by the Director of Public Prosecutions. The JCF said the incident is alleged to have occurred on May 28, 2013, but it was reported to the police on April 7, 2015. The policemen were reportedly responding to an assignment when the teenager was allegedly sexually assaulted. She was later taken to the Center for the Investigation of Sexual Offenses and Child Abuse, where she made a report. A date is being arranged for the men to appear in the St. James Parish Court. Man freed of gun charge following no case submission. Kevin Lewis, the man who was arrested and charged along with a 15-year-old female student in connection with the seizure of a handgun in Rockford, Kingston last June, has been acquitted. Mr. Lewis was freed Tuesday of illegal possession of firearm and ammunition charges following a no-case submission by his attorney Courtney Rowe. He was also represented by attorney John Jacobs. During the trial, investigators testified that when the student was cautioned, she said Mr. Lewis told her to place the illegal gun in her bag. Mr. Rowe argued that 2 of the officers' statements were identical and that they were seeking to fabricate a case against his client. The statements were admitted into evidence for the judge's perusal. Prior to acquitting Mr. Lewis, Justice Chester Stamp agreed with Mr. Rowe's submission that although his client was present when the illegal gun was found, the student's alleged utterance alone is insufficient to prove Mr. Lewis's intent of being in joint possession. During a vehicular checkpoint operation by members of the Joint Anti-Gang Task Force on June 6, Mr. Lewis, who was the driver of a Toyota Wish motorcar, was signaled to stop. He complied, but in the process, 1 male passenger ran from the vehicle and escaped. The vehicle with Mr. Lewis and a 15-year-old female student aboard was subsequently searched and a 9mm pistol with a magazine containing 11 rounds of ammunition found. Mr. Lewis and the student were taken into custody, but the girl was released after no further evidence was offered against her last year. JUTC dismisses reports that its lone electric bus has broken down. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company Limited has dismissed the fake news, a video being circulated on social media, which states that its electric bus, the only one in its fleet, broke down on Tuesday. We use this opportunity to advise the public that this is fake news, said Cecil Toms, the JUTC's Director of Communications. According to Toms, the driver of the bus noticed an unfamiliar icon on the dashboard and promptly reported the issue. Our team instructed her to power off the vehicle for a few minutes before restarting it, which resolved the problem entirely, and the bus resumed operation as expected, Toms said in a statement. We strongly encourage individuals to refrain from spreading false or misleading information. Such actions not only harm our reputation, but also have the potential to cause unnecessary anxiety and confusion among the public, Toms added. The communications director is encouraging members of the public to collaborate with the bus company to promote responsible and accurate communication in its bid to provide public transportation. Curfew imposed in sections of Portmore St. Catherine and Reedspen communities in Portmore St. Catherine. The curfew began at 6 p.m. on Wednesday and will remain in effect until 6 p.m. on Friday, May 5. The boundaries of the Brayton Meadows curfew are north along McPherson Drive from the intersection with Oleander Drive to an imaginary line running parallel to the gully between Brayton Meadows and the 6 East, approximately 146 meters. East along the gully that runs parallel to East Mid Street from Oleander Drive to the gully between Brayton Meadows and the 6 East, approximately 153 meters. South along an imaginary line running parallel to the gully between Brayton Meadows and the 6 East, approximately 126 meters. West along Oleander Drive from the intersection with McPherson Drive to the gully running parallel to 6 East Mid Street, approximately 133 meters. The boundaries of the Reedspen curfew are north along an unnamed road from the intersection with Oleander Drive running westerly to the intersection with Hibiscus Drive, approximately 173 meters. East along an imaginary line from the intersection of McPherson Drive and Oleander Drive running westerly to Hibiscus Drive, approximately 152 meters. South along an imaginary line running north-south parallel to Oleander Drive from the intersection with the unnamed road to the intersection with McPherson Drive, approximately 422 meters. West along Hibiscus Drive from the intersection with the unnamed road to the southern boundary, approximately 432 meters. During the hours of the curfew, all individuals within its boundaries are required to remain within their premises unless otherwise authorized in writing by the ground commander. Health Minister defends spend for COVID-19 response. In response to criticism from the Auditor General over spending by the Ministry of Health to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has defended the expenditure and the actions of the ministry to confront the crisis. In her report to Parliament, the Auditor General found that the multi-million-dollar COVID-19 expenditure lacked formal contracts. Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis said her team unearthed several deficiencies in how the ministry handled a number of issues, including the COVID-19 pandemic, adding that she is not convinced that the hundreds of millions of dollars had been well spent. But in his contribution to the sectoral debate in the House of Representatives on Wednesday afternoon, Dr. Tufton argued that proactive measures implemented by the ministry helped contain the spread of the virus and save lives. While the health minister said he understood the public discourse surrounding the issue, he argued that this generation may never appreciate sufficiently the extent of the threat that we faced and the response that was required.
And I have to listen to the public commentary over time around the COVID expenditure. And I think it is important. It's an important part of our democracy that we must embrace. So I'm not being critical of a process, but I believe I reserve the right to form a judgment. And I have to conclude, Madam Speaker, that it may be that this generation will never appreciate sufficiently the extent of the threat that we face and the response that was required, more often than not learning on the job, which meant life or death in most cases. And there is a trust deficit, and it's something that probably we need to work on here. But the reality is, Madam Speaker, that Jamaica stands stronger because of what we collectively did during these very difficult years and very difficult decisions that we made. Today, while COVID-19 is not over, the impact of the pandemic on our daily lives has diminished significantly, and we're moving to a state of recovery of which we all, Madam Speaker, can be proud. Significantly, fewer Jamaicans are being hospitalized and even fewer persons are dying from the disease. From our last weekly surveillance report, 46 Jamaicans reported COVID-19 infection compared to approximately 9,801 at the peak week of the pandemic in January 2022. We regret, of course, Madam Speaker, that we have had 28 deaths during this period up to April 25th, 2023. But Madam Speaker, when we compare how we have done when we examine all the critical parameters. The reality is that we have done well.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.